morning. We're all on.
Good morning, good morning. The energies are about.
Naughty room, Maria.
Sorry?
I forgot to put you in the other room.
Don't worry, just stay
okay.
there.
That's okay.
Just stay there. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to, well, it's Karen and Gloria's live chat show, Open Minds. And good morning to everyone in the UK, everyone around the world, and everyone that will watch it on a replay. We are running simultaneously live on YouTube. This today is the last, well, tonight will be the last episodes of season 1. We have the wonderful Maria Wheatley this morning, and we have the wonderful Rob Gauthier, the channeler, on at 6 p.m. UK time tonight to end season 1. So we go out with a bang. We would like to thank all of our guests, all of our audience for supporting us all the way through. And we are returning for season 2 on Sunday, the 29th of August, with guests like, I wrote it down, Cheryl Costa, Yossi Roning, Eric Mitchell, Chris Matthews from Bidder Knowledge News, and many, many more. So we have a wonderful season 2 jam-packed for you. However, today we do not have Chris. He was kicked out because today we had Maria with everything dowsing, and I'm going to sit back and be quiet. I have, guys, my pendulum. There you go. I'm ready for this. So good morning, Maria. Oh, Karen's got hers too. And it's over to you, my lovely. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me again. It's great to be back with Open Minds and with you both on this beautiful sunny morning in England. What we're going to have a look at in this session, so to speak, is how to use pendulum dowsing and how to use, it's called a dowsing aid with pendulum dowsing, so you can check on the quality of your food, of your water, and things like that. And I'm going to start off by showing different dowsing instruments to the audience, because it's more than just about pendulum dowsing. And I'm going to give a demonstration of, for example, L-rod dowsing. So when we come to dowsing instruments, when we look back to, hundreds of years ago, they used to use a hazel rod like this to divine for water. So that's one of your really traditional dowsing instruments. And for water divining, it simply cannot be beaten. And there's a whole myth about which trees were used, like the hazel tree. This is a copper and nickel based L-rod with a sleeve on it, so that you hold the rod like this. And we'll be having a look at L-rod dowsing. That's great for dowsing things like earth energies, grid systems, lays, and a lot more besides. So that's your L-rod. And like I say, that's copper and nickel. You also have traditional rods that can be iron, metal, like this. These are sleeveless rods. They haven't got any sleeve on, unlike the other one, which you can see there. And they're made of iron and ornated as well. So they're lovely. And then for electromagnetic energies like vortex energy or portal energy, a Chinese geomant that I know called Mike Chan, he designed this instrument, which has got a kind of pointer on the end, and that will spin wildly on vortex energy and, like I said, portal energy. And then you have what's called a normal pendulum, which you can use for dowsing. And I use what's called the 4-element dowsing. It's glass and air so that was fire, it being made in a fire. It had air breathed into it for the element of air. It's got holy water in it for water and crystals for earth. So I use a 4-element pendulum that was handmade. And then you get healing energy pendulums as well. And this is called Karnak pendulum, comes from ancient Egypt. And when you screw it together, it starts generating a particular frequency that can be used for healing. And that's notable in all of the temple spaces where you see this Karnak pendulum depicted everywhere, especially in the Valley of the Kings and in Komombo Temple just off the Nile. That's a masculine pendulum. You also get another beautiful healing energy pendulum from ancient Egypt. This is called the Isis pendulum. It comes in 3 parts. It's called a double chambered 6-bar Isis pendulum, and when that screws together, it generates, when it goes clockwise, for example, healing white light energy, and it takes out energy when it goes counterclockwise, and it can be used to heal the aura, charge up food, charge up water, and if you have some training with it, to train to all of the colors of the sun god Ra that comes down on the electromagnetic spectrum, and more colors besides, you at a particular time of the day project that color into the Isis pendulum. So that can become a color healing energy device. So there's lots of different types of pendulums, or you could get just a standard crystal, beautiful pendulum like this. That's bluestone from the Preseli, and just use that. Or like the pendulums, you get whatever one that you're attracted to. Just go and sort of buy it. And then what I recommend that people do, if it feels right, is the heart chakra attunement for you and your pendulum. And that's just spending a little bit of time, focusing your pendulum, what you want your pendulum to achieve, for example, and place it in your hand over the heart chakra, and just have a gentle meditation and intent with it, like putting in your intent to the pendulum, and that will set you up heart to heart with the pendulum, because this is really not just a piece of rock on the end of a chain. It's going to be a relationship between you and energies. So you build up a relationship with your pendulum or with your L rods. So I always think the heart chakra attunement, if it feels right, is really good.
Wow. I mean,
was going to say about because I do know a little bit about pendulums, only a little bit. And I do know that the more time you spend with it and the intention that you put in, like I tend to sort of hold mine or even put it under my pillow sometimes. But I didn't realise that you would do the same thing with the L rods, which actually makes sense. It does make sense, but I never thought of that. So,
well, with the L rods, you go one step further than pendulum dowsing. It depends what you're going to use your pendulum for. If you're going to use it for earth energies and detection like that, it may be a good idea to do what I suggest to my students with the L rods, and that's take it to somewhere that you feel really good in nature. It could be the park if you're in a city. It could be, if you're spoiled like me, at Avebury Henge or Stonehenge. You could take it anywhere that just has that feel good, beautiful factor. Take your rods, put them on the ground where you feel good, and dedicate them to Gaia. And dedicate them to earth energies and for the betterment of humanity. And then Gaia kind of will connect with it energetically speaking, and your rods have been dedicated. And a lot of people, when they come to Avebury to do dowsing with me, they really like to do that. They feel that their rods become imbued in energy. So that's something that listeners may like to consider. If it like I say, if everything feels right to you, do it. I mean, if it doesn't, I'd say just don't do it. Everybody has their own ways and their own techniques.
I never knew so much about pendulums. I just thought pendulum. You have just demonstrated different pendulums, different things, different energies. Now I never knew, and I must say I'm really interested in the vortex one. That's something I may have to purchase. I never knew. I just thought it was, because I've never touched pendulums, I've been aware, just thought it was, just dowsing or with the rods. But there's a lot more to dowsing or using the pendulum or the rods than what I thought of as well. That's amazing. The Egyptian, obviously I'm attracted to Egypt in itself. I never knew they existed. Wow. can you, with the pendulum, the vortex pendulum, so say for example you go out like me, an absolute novice, and you go out into nature, and you know, if your intention is, would it be to search for a vortex? How does that work when you start with that pendulum?
The best thing to do to start with is you set up your yes and no responses with a pendulum or with a dowsing rod or dowsing rods. So you can say to your pendulum, for example, to set up the yes or no response, you hold it in the still position like that, and then simply ask the rod to show you your yes response. So I'm saying in my mind, well, I'll do it out loud, show me my yes response, show me my yes response. And for me, going clockwise.
Show me my yes response. Oh, anti-clockwise.
There you go.
Oh, wow. I'm hooked. That's it. I'm hooked.
So that's your yes. And then you simply say to your pendulum, show me my no response. And it doesn't matter if you don't get it first of all. Do you see what I mean? Just practice now and again. And you should get eventually your yes and no responses set
Gone
up.
clockwise now. How did that happen?
Yeah, well, this is pendulum dowsing.
Wow, look. Oh my God, I got the shivers as well. Oh wow, do go on, please.
So that's our yes and no responses. Now, to douse successfully, each time that you go to douse, then you need to find out if you're in balance or not, because sometimes, you know, if we're tired, if we're, you know, coming down with an illness or just feeling low, that can affect our dowsing responses because we're not in balance. So the easiest way to check that you're in balance, once you've like set up your yes and no, is to, with your free hand, with the pendulum in the other hand, your dowsing hand, which can be anything, what feels comfortable for you. With your free hand, put it in or around the solar plexus area, and then simply say to your pendulum, am I in balance? And my pendulum is saying, yes, I am in balance.
I in balance. Oh, I got a no. I'm out of balance.
Okay.
I'm out of balance.
But the easiest way to put yourself back in balance is to take some nice deep breaths. And if you have any rescue remedy to hand, as it were, that's the backflower remedy, rescue remedy, just put 4 drops underneath the tongue and that will get you back into balance. Or what some people do is they sweep and clear their aura to, you know, put away some sort of, you know, unbalancing energies, and you can do it that way. If I'm sort of house clearing or land harmonizing, then what I do is I just simply take some rescue remedy with it. It's quick, it's simple, and it's effective. But for what we're doing now, we're not sort of needing to be perfectly in balance. So, but it's something that professional dowsers, you know, consider when they go out. So we check that we're in balance as well. So that's our first.
Sorry to interrupt, but I've never heard of rescue remedy. What is that? I'm a novice to this.
Okay, well, rescue remedy, you can buy it in Boots, you could buy it anywhere these days. It's Dr. Edward back many years ago now, decades ago actually, I think it was in around the 1920s and the 1930s. He looked at how particular flowers, the essence of them when mixed in with water can help heal. And he discovered what's called the 12 healers, and then went on to discover lots of other plants that can help us in many ways, like aspen, flower essence can help us with unknown fears, mimulus with known fears. And he created 5 together and called it rescue remedy. So anybody that is worried or anxious or concerned about something, like before a driving test or before any test, actually, you can take rescue remedy and it brings your auric energies back into balance. It's a wonderful little item to, you know, literally pop in your handbag. It doesn't take up much room, and it's very good. A lot of people recommend it. Even nurses in hospitals, I know, would use rescue remedy.
Right, that's me off to Boots on Monday. Rescue remedy.
It's a really good point to be making, when because I think a lot of people, they think that for example, a pendulum is just a magical thing that it's this that does all the answering, but actually it's very much to do with yourself as well, isn't it? And you being in the right place and of the right frame of mind, and the trust in yourself, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, that's really very important. It's the relationship between you and your pendulum. So especially with rods, when you douse Gaia's energy, I got brought up in quite a male environment when it came to dowsing. Okay, I was around a lot of males in the 80s. I really was. And they kind of saw dowsing as the ability to be able to find an invisible target, be that underground water, a ley line, or whatever. That is true. Don't get me wrong. But for me, it went deeper. It's okay, we're going to find a lay on earth energy. Well, what does it do to me? How can I work with Gaia's energies? So it's about a relationship with Gaia, L-Rod dowsing for earth energies. It's not just about finding things or getting answers. It's that relationship with yourself, the planet, the pendulum. And it's like friendship. You need to build up trust with your pendulum. And 9 times out of 10, if you get a wrong answer, it's because you formulated a question that isn't a good framework. For example, a bad double question is something big and black? Well, what's big? The universe? My room that I'm in? Really think about the types of questions you're going to ask your dowsing instrument. Keep a journal about it so that you can say, I got that wrong because, yes, that was a bad question. I was a bit out of balance. Because this is why dowsing has its pitfalls, which it does. It's not a complete science, as it were, but it's normally down to the person and the person's own energetic field that has influenced the energy devices that you're using. So bear that in mind. But when we move on and we think about how can we get going with dowsing, so to speak, it's really just 3 simple premises. It's information dowsing. That's asking a question, a good question. That's information dowsing. The next real technique that you need to know with a pendulum or with an L-rod is directional dowsing, which is show me the direction of X. And by that, I could say, show me the direction of the nearest ley line. And the rod will point you into a particular direction. I'll have a go with that, and we'll have a go with our pendulums with that in a moment. And then the next premise after directional dowsing is you follow it till it goes found or to yes. Do you see what I mean? Then you found that target. So you use information dowsing, asking a question, directional dowsing, show me the direction of X, and what's called tracking. You follow it till you get found, whatever your found or your yes is. So it's quite easy with L-rods to do directional dowsing. It's a bit more tricky for some with the pendulum, but it's easy. Both are easy to do. I'm going to demonstrate, for example, with an L-rod. Now, to start off practicing directional dowsing, whether it's with a pendulum or whether it's with an L-rod, you literally choose a target that you can see in your home. Now, you can't see it, but to the left of me, I've got a lamp, and the lamp is on. So I'm going to put my rod in search position, which is pointing straight ahead and parallel to the ground. I'll do a pendulum in a moment. Now I'm going to focus my energy. This is how you start off. I'm going to focus my energy on the lamp. I know where it is. And then I'm going to say to my L-rod, show me the direction of the lamp. And it's pointing in the near direction of the lamp. Okay, then to track it, I would follow it, and it might bend you back onto target, and you'd follow it. And then when it goes to found, you found that. But you start off practicing what you can see in your room. Then you build up to an invisible target. For example, I know where my stove is in my kitchen. So I would then say, show me the direction of the cooker, show me the direction of the freezer. Then go further afield. I live in a lovely market town. There's some churches, there's some supermarkets. You didn't say, show me the direction of Tesco's. And it will target it. Now, when you're using a pendulum, for example, with directional dowsing, I'm going to focus on the lamp, and say to my pendulum, show me the direction of the lap, and it's slightly pulling one way rather than swinging both ways. You'll get to feel that once you've had some practice with that.
I'm going to practice now. Show me the direction of the big mirror on the wall.
Type of technique. So where's a target?
Look, it's going
and
towards
you can always
the mirror.
Yeah, and that's directional dowsing. And the more that you practice that directional dowsing technique, the more that you feel the pull. Did you feel a slight pull, Gloria?
Yes, I did. I'm just shocked at the moment. I'm open, and it didn't go anti-circle or so. It just pulled that way and went over there. It was like, I'm like, wow, and wow, that was amazing. Oh God, that's it.
I think, like Maria's saying, it's important for anybody that was interested in doing any of the dowsing that, again, it's that relationship building and the practice and using those control questions to build that up and build a rapport. Because I know when I speak to people, if they're unsure of what the yes and no is with the pendulum, I get them to ask questions that they know the answers to, so that they can see. So, like, if I, just for example, if I said, is my hair green? It would obviously go straight to the no, because it isn't, but I already know that. If that makes sense. So building that up and getting used to what the answers are is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's all these great little techniques that, you know, we can apply, that's for sure. And a master dowser called Tom Graves said, because a lot of people were getting questions wrong and they didn't really know what to do, you could, like you say, ask a question you know the answer to. What Tom Graves came out with is he called it the Hermes response. You're not sure whether that's a true answer or not. And he called it the Hermes response. So let's say you've asked a question and, you know, you're not too sure if the answer is correct. What Tom Graves suggested was ask if it's the Hermes response, because there's the trickster element to the universe. And that's and all of the gods, a pantheon of gods, recognize the trickster aspect of creation. And so if it goes yes, it's a Hermes response. It's an incorrect answer. Maybe now is not the time, or the appropriate meaning to that question needs to be asked at that time. So it's a bit of a Hermes response. And I think that's a really good way to determine the correct answer, by simply asking that aspect of creation. That's how Tom Graves saw it in his quite seminal book, Pendulum Dowsing. I mean, it is an old classic, and I think it's, you know, it can't really be beaten. And there's some really good old classic dowsing books that, you know, haven't had everything added on to them just to make it a third different, which is the requirement of a publishing house. So you come up with something else. I think the timeless classics are the best. And when we look back to the 1930s, for example, that's when the most tests were done on pendulum and L-rod dowsing. And what they discovered in their laboratories was weather can affect your dowsing. The moon can influence your dowsing. Are you good at dowsing at a new moon, a full moon? Do you get incorrect inconsistencies around the time of the full moon, or do you get better? It's called your psi factor. And by building up the understanding between you and planetary bodies like the moon and the weather, they discover. I mean, we're Brits. I mean, the weather is our main effect, so to speak. So they discovered that on a clear day, and isn't it beautiful today? It's a beautiful clear sky.
Oh, it's fantastic.
This is the best time, they said, you get the most accurate dowsing results. When it's changeable weather, you can get changeable results as well. And they tested numerous dowsers, not just a small group. They did a whole series of when is the best time to douse. And in the winter, they discovered it's when it's a clear, frosty morning, when there's that changeable weather pattern. We are influenced. There is no separation between us and nature. So we are going to be influenced by different aspects of it. So that's, again, something to work with and consider.
I'm shocked. I mean, I got the yes and no. Okay, you know, this is I mean, God, I'm a psychic, so I should be able to get it. But when you said about, I didn't think, and I said, show me the mirror, I'm still shocked here that it went that way. And each time I got shivers, and I'm like, how did you do that? I now can't wait till the show's over. I'm off in the garden. I'm in the country, and I am going to start. I'm shocked, Marie. I've never knew there was so much to dowsing. I just thought people would just go. I'm blown away. Can you give some? I was going to say, have you got any information? This obviously is very personal to me as well, but for the audience, this vortex, because it's not just for me. People are talking about the energies, the vortex, what's happening on planet Earth at the moment. Have you got any instruction on how to use the vortex one? If one got hold of vortex pendulum or rods.
What do you mean, the vortex in the landscape and working with that?
Yes.
Right, yeah. You get different types of vortex for one. It's not just one glove fits all. So, for example, mild vortex energy can be caused by the crossing point of two lays, or the nodal point of two earth currents, for example, or a really, really good type of clearing vortex is where you get a pocket of very, very deep water, and that generates an energy field of negative ions, which can be kind of a vortex of negative ions. And if you stand over that for, a short period of time, you're being bathed in all of that negative ion energy, which is really good. And people feel that change, and they feel that almost it's like having a negative ion bath, if you will. They come away and feeling refreshed. Then when it comes to places like Sedona, which has a lot of very large vortexes, for example, they see it as being electric or magnetic in terms of different types of vortex for different types of energy work. So, for example, a magnetic type of vortex can be quite positive. There's been a lot of people, doing dream work above those sort of locations. They're not the places where one would live. You don't want to be living above vortex energy, because when you go to Sedona, you see all the trees being twisted around with the vortex energy. They're places like the Native Americans knew. You go to them, work with the energy, and then you come away from them. That's the best way to work with vortex energy. And you could go out into the countryside, for example. Now, with dowsing, when you go for information dowsing, it's always better to really visualize, really connect with that which you're going to douse. So if we're going to go finding vortexes, folks, then what you need to do is spend some time visualizing that. Maybe you'd like to see it as energy like this. Do you see what I mean? Think about how you're going to make your relationship with what you're going to douse as a visualization, and then you apply the techniques we've just spoken about. Let's say you're stood in a field, for example. You could use, as you do. Yeah, for sure. On a day like this, go out and let's do it. We're going to find underground water, and the best place to put our beds in this session as well. Yeah. So you're in a field. You can say, you look around, you've got the perimeter of the field, so to speak, and then you can say to your pendulum, is there a vortex in this locality? Meaning the field. That's your locality of where you're dowsing. Because if you just said, is there a vortex in this area? Well, what's the area? 10 miles? 20 miles? Do you see what I mean? When you frame the question, that's one of the most important things. So you're in a field, and let's say, Eureka, you got a yes. There's a vortex in this vicinity of the field. Then you use the directional technique. Show me the direction of the nearest vortex. Always say nearest when you're dowsing, because let's say I'm at Avebury and I say, show me the direction of a ley line. Well, there's a ley line 5 miles away. Why don't you go walk for that one, Maria? When there's the nearest one, it's just over there. So
Yeah,
if we
yeah, yeah.
nearest, you're cutting down on your workload and walking distances, I would say. So then you just follow your pendulum, the direction that it's leading you, like Gloria felt, you will feel a pull. Or with L-rod dowsing, you just follow wherever your rod is going. And it might meander off in one direction. Then when it goes to found or yes response, you'll be on the vortex, and then calm yourself down and see how that energy makes you feel. And that's called a geosignature, because you have lots of different types of energy, from earth currents to ley lines, and allow that energy almost to come through your feet chakras, up through the body, and see how that makes you feel. And you probably will feel a really good clearing. And you could even be very precise in your dowsing for a vortex and say, show me a negative ionizing vortex. Do you see what I mean? And then you will feel good. You will really feel good, because one thing I've noticed about ancient sites, the ancients did not want you to take your emotional pollution into the ancient site. So they had these areas which are either called neutral areas, or areas that have these pockets of vortex energy that kind of clear you up, so to speak, or put you in a neutral frame to go into the site, rather than taking our enthusiasm and excitement, which it is. That's great to take that into an ancient site. But sometimes I think our ancestors wanted to keep them quite pristine, if you see what I mean, and energetically of value like that. So you clear yourself off before you go in. So that's a really good health tip. Yeah. Go out, find a negative ionizing vortex, and that will help improve your health by having a top up, as it were, whenever you feel that you feel that you need it.
I'm just too excited, like a child. I can feel the energy. I've got this excitement, and I'm still in shock how that works. I understand quantum physics. I mean, I know, but still I'm putting a question and it's answered. I mean, you don't even get that clarity in mediumship. It was like, wow, I'm off vortex hunting later. I'm going for the negative ions. I'm out there. Oh my Lord, Marie, that is just, I never knew, how ignorant. I never knew any of this. I just thought it was people waving a pendulum, I knew about the water dowsing. Obviously, I'm old enough to, been around that. Well, no, not that old. No, Karen, stop it. But you know what I mean. Finding water. I've never experienced that. But this is just a whole new world has opened up today. And I did say to Karen, today is a new start for me. And I wonder where it's going to go. And my gosh, Marie, I'm just so grateful to you. Anything else you'd like to share?
Well,
me and my audience.
I'm going to give you these shortcuts, because this is the easiest way to do it, but it's not necessarily the best way. So I'll describe both, but because we've got a limited amount of time, so it's a time factor.
Yeah.
The way that you really should learn dowsing it, in my humble opinion, is by recognizing the energies of Gaia. Yeah, because she has good energies, and she has energies that can produce what's called geopathic stress, and just put toxic earth energy to make that really simple. Okay. Yeah. But some animals like that. So I'm not a dowser that goes around moving things like leys or grids, because you're moving an ecosystem if you do, because some animals like that. And why? Just because I live somewhere that I have to move everything and, disturb other animal kingdoms, mineral kingdoms, etc. So I don't move anything. I just raise the frequency of the area. And with different energy devices, you can do that, or different diffusers, you can do that. And one for example, toxic influence is called the curry grid. And the curry grid, if you imagine this, is a grid system all over Gaia, like a fishnet. Throw a fishnet over Gaia and you'll get an idea of a grid system. And that grid is, roughly speaking, in our latitude, every 3.5 meters across, we'll get a crossing point of the grid. Do you see what I mean? So imagine that. But Gaia isn't a perfect circle. She's a sphere. She bulges at the equators, and she's tighter at the poles. So if you were dowsing the curry grid on the equator, it would be much wider. Do you see what I mean? So I'm talking about our latitude is every sort of 3.5 meters. The grid system runs from the northeast to the southwest and from the northwest to the southeast. That's the direction that it flows in. And there was a wonderful survey done by Dr. Kathy Batchelor with physicians, trained doctors, not just dowsers. They were doctors that were dowsers. And they surveyed 11,000 homes in Germany and Austria, for example, for geopathic stress, for the curry grid. And what they found was it doesn't matter what type of healing that you have. It could be orthodox chemotherapy, for example. It could be crystal healing, acupuncture, whatever. If you go back and you sleep long term above the curry grid line or underground yang water, we'll talk about that in a moment, your body doesn't self-heal that fast. And they realized that the geopathic stress works by blocking your ability in the kind of stomach area, so to speak, to absorb really good nutrients in food. So you could be on an organic diet of the best food, but if you're sleeping above the curry net, and especially the crossing point, then you're not going to self-heal. And eventually you will become ill with long-term sleeping above the curry net, was their discovery. And they even called them cancer houses in Germany, because they found people would become ill. So, shortcuts, okay? Because I haven't got the time to tell you how it does.
It's okay.
So there's, and Kathy, but this is Kathy Batchelor's work. I will lay no claim to this shortcut, because she realized that, it's not hard to douse the curry grid, but you need a little bit of training. But it's always good to have that training, because you recognize it by plants, you recognize it by how your body feels, and a lot of things besides. But a good shortcut with your pendulum or with your L rod is stand in the doorway, obviously with the door open. You stand in the doorway, you put your rod or your pendulum in search position, that's still, or with the rod pointing forward, and you simply say to your rod or your pendulum, show me the best location for my bed.
Stay there, it's live, chat among yourselves. I'm off dowsing at the door. Be back.
Okay. Well, Gloria, and for you say for your best health position, the best place for my bed, and that's really good, because if, for example, when my daughter Raven was young, and I used to hang out with some young mums. When they said their baby was crying a lot, I just said, move the cot by 15 centimeters either way. Yeah, and the baby will stop crying, because you will have removed the child, who's very sensitive, off the grid. That's the idea. We move the cot off the grid. And what Kathy Batchelor also discovered was that if you're in schools or colleges, then if you study and your desk, for example, is above the curry grid, you can't concentrate that well either. So, if we could change schooling, I'm really proud to say I've taught a lot of nurses in the United States. Hi, Cheryl, if you're listening. Hi, Joyce, if you're listening. Great nurses who got the beds all off the curry grid in their ward, because it's very important to be off that grid system. It used to be thought that it was just the sort of crossing points, every other crossing point, that was really toxic. But with the advent of 5G and so much electromagnetic pollution, I think we need to think about being off grid as best as one can. So that's something really easy that you can do to empower your family and to improve your family's health. And how simple is that?
That is so simple. I've got to tell you, live, Gloria being Gloria, I stood at the door, I followed the instructions. I would have moved my bed if it had told me so. I trust this. And my bed's in the right place. I've got it in the right place. But it pulled again. So I normally sage. Sage is out the window. I would later on be going around the house and doing this, but it worked. I'm like blown away. There you go.
Yeah,
It works.
It does. It's very effective. And like I said, in all of the surveys that were done with under the direction of Dr. Kathy Batchelor, this is what they found. They went on to find another amazing statistic. And that was in a 7-year study period, they discovered that a third of all hospital admissions was down to geopathic stress. Now, could you imagine if we took that out of the health service at this moment in time, how amazing that would be? Yeah. So I think it's very important to put yourself in a good sleeping position. And if you're like me, and I'm writing my book at the moment, you're in the same position with your laptop or your PC, check that. Okay. Now, another
checking tip. Everything. Yeah. Even where I paint, being an artist, I have moved across one side of a room to another recently, and I'm now in this room, not that room, for the show. And I'm going to check if I'm sure I've made the right decision, but maybe it was just happened anyway. But I will check everything that I do. I'm like a child in class here. I am so excited. It works. Okay, do go on, Maria. Do go on.
Well, wow. Like I say, they did a lot of these tests and studies, and your body will have symptoms of geopathic stress if you are sleeping above it. For example, what they discovered was some people grind their teeth quite a bit if they're sleeping above geopathic stress. The other thing is your body, when it's asleep, is in a higher state of consciousness, and it will avoid the grid. So let's say your bed is on a grid line. You might wake up in a peculiar position and think, why did I sleep like that? It's because your body's moving away from it. What they also discovered, let's say you've got the curry grid line going and it's there on my head, for example. So my head is being influenced. I'm going to get headaches. I'm going to feel quite, it sounds odd, but sometimes your head will feel a little bit heavy. You'll get really achy shoulders. You'll wake up feeling fatigued. You'll find it difficult to go to sleep. These are all symptoms of geopathic stress influencing the body. And like I said, the main thing is it stops the absorption of minerals in your body. So it doesn't matter how good your diet is. It doesn't matter how much, complementary healing one may have. It is simply going to be ineffective. So that's something that we can look out for. But we can go the other way. You don't have to just look for something negative, so to speak. What I do for, my house clearing and land harmonization is, obviously, you want to make sure the health of the querent, the client, is good. And then you could go into the garden or into the home. And I ask people, where do you feel comfortable? And they might say, oh, I like it there. I like it here. People know their homes. Yeah. And so I will then say to them, well, I'm going to look for a male earth current for you. And that will be a place where you can get maybe energized and feel kind of like healing, but energetic. Your energy levels may go up. So a great place to recuperate over anything. A great place if you need energy. And things like that. And ancient sites, they're massive. They're like rivers flowing in, these male and female earth currents. Imagine them meandering like a river through the landscape. They're not straight lines. They meander like rivers, earth currents. And but where I live, you're probably not going to get it really wide like at Avebury or Stonehenge. You're probably going to get it about 2 feet across, realistically, on average. How long's a piece of string? I don't know how big it's going to be on in your property. But again, visualize that which you're going to douse. Okay. So let's say I'm wanting a solar masculine earth current. It's really positive for me, then I visualize that, a really positive, harmonizing male earth current. And I visualize that flowing like a river of color. That's how I do it. But again, you have to do it your way. And then I say to my rod, again, using our premise, first of all, go out in the garden. Lovely day. Let's douse the garden today, folks. Yeah. Go out into the garden and say, is there a positive solar earth current in my garden? Yes. Yeah. So then you just stand there and say, show me the direction of the nearest male positive earth current, or whatever it is you're dowsing for. Do you see what I mean? You get it into the geomancer's way, and it will point, or your pendulum, like you've been experienced, Gloria, will pull you slightly into the said direction. Carry on walking really slowly. Sometimes people, it's like they want to run a marathon, rushing off. Walk slowly and calmly, and then your pendulum will go to yes, or your rod will go to found, and then you will be above that positive, rejuvenating, energizing area within your garden or within your home. So that's something I would say is easy to do, and it can be. And what I've got in my garden, for example, I've got different earth energies for different purposes. So I've got, if I need energizing, I've got a really nice garden feature above a particular type of energy, and that's where I go to. Because I love being outdoors anyway. I really do. I really love being out of doors, especially on a day like this. So we can live in harmony with Gaia's energies using very, very simple techniques. Sometimes when dowsers talk about dowsing, and they make it sound so complicated. I've been doing this for 30 years of my life, and I think, really? You sound very clever, but it's not really that difficult with the three premises that we were discussing.
The way that you've described that, I mean, I have heard others speak of dowsing, and I've got lost, off disinterest. But what you've done today, as you can all tell, guys, and the audience can tell, it's like, God, that's so simple to understand. I'm sort of getting this awareness now. Being an artist, I'm always designing the home or the garden. It's a natural thing for me to do. However, so as you would do it in your home, like I've just done with the bed, it pulled it. I mean, that was, and I get a shiver with it. I don't know why, but it pulled it. I will go in the garden. I have a favorite space in the garden to sit. So later on, I'm going to find out, is that the right place? Because I tell you, if that pendulum says no, I will then ask, where is the best place to sit in my garden, and I will move that chair. I am so excited. Audience, I mean, you can, if you've missed part of this, or you haven't got a chance to watch it, please watch the rerun of today, because Maria has shared that so wonderfully.
I'm going to be watching it back. Can I just ask Maria, when we talk about the grids and the energy spots and stuff, are they sort of permanent where they are, or can they and do they move, or is there something that affects them? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a really good question, one that is muted quite a bit there, and there's two schools of thought really on that, and in kind of Chinese geomantic terms, then sometimes the energy lines can move, but if you anchor them in through standing stones, through some kind of construct, that can be like an acupuncture needle, if you will, on a meridian line, that can stay permanent. The master dowser Guy Underwood, whose papers I inherited, he did write a book, but unfortunately it was the wrong book that went to print because it was after his death, and because he was a pioneer, he put quite a few disinformation in there because he was pioneering, and I thought, no, it's this way. And what he said, when it comes to the geodetic system of earth energies, that's very deep water that I call yin water. And imagine that there's kind of large aquifers deep below the ground, not the aquifers that there is full of rainfall. That's called groundwater to the water board, not that type of aquifer, because that's the deeper aquifers, the yin aquifers, are water that's born within Gaia. It used to be called primary water. I much prefer the term yin water because it's born of Gaia. Give Gaia her power back. It's feminine power. Yeah. So I'm very much into calling it yin water, to the annoyance of some people, though. But bringing back Gaia's power. And that type of very deep water is permanent. So the ancients looked for that. It generates an electromagnetic field, and they looked for that, and they placed the features, often the central features of standing stones and ancient sites, above that energy. And some can fluctuate and move. Some ley lines can expand and contract, and they can go through their own cycles. So sometimes it is in a state of flux, and sometimes it's in a state of permanence, like grid lines are permanent and the deep waters of the earth are permanent. So it's a yes and no answer to that question. But that's how it is. But I think the more that you interact with place, the power of place and making power of place, whether it's in your garden or wherever, it builds up an energetic field anyway. We know this because energy follows thought, doesn't it? So the more that we build up a little power center in our garden above maybe a solar earth current, a masculine earth current, a male earth current. I tend to think of them in terms of solar and lunar rather than gender, really. Then that can be, like I said, energizing. And always check that it's good for your health and check that it's really, positive for you. And then you can't go too far wrong. So we've looked at the masculine type of earth energy. Then we can look at the feminine type as well, kind of the lunar. And if you have that in your garden, by doing exactly the same technique, information douses it there in the first place, show you the nearest, directional douse, bang, found. That's it really. Well, the female earth currents, for example, are really more like calming and soothing and meditative. They can expand, on psychic side. A lot of people have experienced that as well. And they're with the moon will influence them. So when you have a female earth current, how does it feel for you at the new moon, full moon, the quarters? Build up that relationship. You may find that it expands at the full moon, for example. It becomes a bit bigger, and then you can interact with that. So for someone that needs calming, and I've done quite a bit of work with autistic kids, actually put them on a calming energy, and they will calm down. Not completely. I'm not saying that's a cure-all for anything, but it does calm people down. And so you can see how we can live in harmony with Gaia more by knowing the power of place and how to interpret place. And there's much different earth energy patterns out there as well. So for me, I think it's really simple, and you will feel a lot better for that. So on a solar current, because it's slightly energizing, maybe you could check your bed placement for that as well. Do you see what I mean? Because it's, again, the more neutral position you're in for sleeping, in all probability, that will be good. For you, rather than above particular types of energy, especially the energizing ones. You wouldn't live above.
No. I mean, for me, later on when I go in the garden, because when I do go out and sit, it's so peaceful in the village. It's just quiet. It's lovely. And I will now go and just check I'm in the right place. I might be. The bed's in the right place. But if not, then I shall move and sitting. So it's on the feminine one, that would be a good place to maybe contemplate, introspection, discernment, so things like that energy, if I can find the feminine energy in the garden or in the house. So there you go, new beginnings for me. Karen, are you going to be off dowsing?
Yeah, I am. And it's one of those things that I've always sort of had the tools to do, but never really done it. And I really want to be doing that now and check it, because I know that sometimes you do feel a little bit misplaced in where something is or what's it. So that's really good. Can I just ask, actually, Wendy Henderson had put on that she lives right near the Thames, and is there anything she could do to give her pendulum energy? So on that note, do you think that like water, and especially free flowing water, has an effect on how effective a pendulum can be, especially if it's a crystal one, for example?
Well, yes. I mean, living, by water and having that energy flow anyway is considered quite good, because how dowsers see water, the place I would suggest to empower your pendulum is in what's called the interface. And the interface is between two elements. So an interface, for example, I'll give you a classic example. At the seashore is the interface of where earth meets water element. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when church spires are up there, that's where earth would meet air. That's an interface. Do you see what I mean? And when you get an interface, dowsers say that it generates a particular type of energy. Okay, we haven't got time to go in what type of energy that is, but just say that is an energetic area between two elements. Very powerful. And if you put your pendulum on the ground, even to keep it really simple, put your pendulum on the ground. You don't need an hour therapy with earth energy. You need a couple of minutes. You really do. And or what you can do is put the pendulum over the interface or a dowsing rod over an interface, keep it still, and it will start going quite fast. Like this. Do you see what I mean? It will generate and let it do its own thing. And when it stops, that's good. It has the interface energy within it. Yeah. And the same with the dowsing rod. Let it do what it wants to do. It might want to do this, waver each side. It might want to spin around 360 degrees, so to speak. And then when it stops, the interface energy has entered the dowsing instrument. And if you're above it and you're working with that and you. So anything that is like that. And in fact, Master Dowsers of Europe would say an interface is also, I'm sat at a glass table, for example, and it's wood, it's got oak with it. So when you get two different types of substances, that's an interface as well. So where the wood meets the glass, do you see what I mean? That's an interface as well. So we can work with interfaces in many different types of environs.
Wow.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Well, Marie, we're coming up to time. We're coming up to the hour. Thank you so much. We all knew, didn't we, Karen, this would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm like I say, I'm definitely going to be watching it back myself, even though I was here in the moment.
Yes.
Because I want to make sure that I've taken everything in.
Thank you for the live dowsing, and obviously Wendy said thank you. I'm off over the river later, so
have fun, Wendy.
It's like, thank you so much. I mean, for your time. We look forward to when your book comes out. So do let us know when your book comes out.
Yeah, I know there's a few people. There's a few people just on the comments there who've been asking about any books that Maria has or coming up. And if we could put the links for those on, or if Maria could put those on later.
One classic that I have got on my website, and if people could go through my website, I'd be in gratitude, because I've had to open up a professional account with Amazon and they take 60% from me now. Long story about Amazon. If you could go through I've got a great book, and I'm going to be a bit biased because my late father wrote it.
So you should.
Okay, be biased.
It's called The Essential Dowsing Guide, and he's put it in such a way that it's really a timeless classic that most dowsers say, because it tells you something to do and then go practice, and he tells you how to practice that in simple bullet points. So you don't have to think about it that much. You can just go out and experience it. And then for a deeper understanding, I've got the Divine in Ancient Sites, which talks about all the different types of earth energies and the colors that earth energies emit and different frequencies. And that delves in. But to begin with, I'd say good little baby steps, become really confident, build up your relationship with your rod and with that beautiful planet we live upon, Gaia.
Yeah. Well, on that note, you couldn't say it any better. Thank you, Maria, for joining us today. We will put up Maria's links and how to access her books. And you guess who's going there now? Me. I mean, I'm just blown away today. It's a new reality for me today. Before we go, guys, I just want to say thank you to our audience who's watched us in the AMs. If you're unable to come this evening for the PM, in case you're working, or have commitments. Thank you for following me and Chris and Karen for the past several months for season 1, and we will be back on the 29th of August for season 2. Later on today, we have the amazing Rob Gauthier from the USA. We're 7 hours ahead, so we brought it to the 6 p.m. time. He'll be talking about his spiritual journey, He's a lovely, gentle giant. He's an absolute love bug, and I look so forward. And this evening, Karen, I have Chris with me co-hosting, don't I?
Yes, we're going to let him, because unfortunately I'm one of those people who has to work later. So.
Yeah, I know. But there's always the rerun. So on that note, thank you very much, Maria, and thank you. And Karen will now definitely put you in the naughty room.
yeah. Well, I didn't want to put her in before.
Oh, I know.
Thank you so much.
No favoritism. It was funny because Nancy Meyer kept saying, I love the naughty room, put me in the naughty room. I go, oh my gosh, there you go. So Karen, thank you so much this morning. I'll be with Chris obviously later on this evening for double today, and I will see you in between, but obviously you'll be with us in season 2 when we come back at the end of August, beginning of September. Thank you everybody for watching us today. Please share and like our page and our posts. We're on YouTube as well, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tonight 6 p.m. live on Open Minds. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye everybody.
Oh my gosh, I'm just like a child.